I forgot to pop us on screen, Ted.
It's quieter
Monday.
without us.
It's
calmer.
Monday. Good morning. You are tuned into the Ted Manila Information Show, the TMI Show for short, because we bring you too much information. That over there is the Ted Rall of the show. I am Manila Chan. We are focusing today on the hometown, my hometown, Los Angeles, California, where what they want to call riots are happening. I call it disturbances. 1992, if you lived through the riots in Los Angeles like I did, these are not riots. But anyway, whole discussion about that forthcoming. So you are at the right place if you want to fight about immigration, policy, posse comitatus, whatever, all of that stuff. We're going to be talking about it right here in just a moment. But in the meantime, before we get started, make sure you hit the like button, the follow, the thumbs up, all of that good stuff. Wherever you're consuming this content, it really helps our little channel grow, helps with the algorithms. We're live every Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. So smash that like button, and we're going to jump in for the full hour fighting about immigration. We've already had a pre-show fight, if you guys didn't know.
Yeah, it's not going to be a peaceful, easy feeling.
Yeah, it's a war in LA. That's what we're going to talk about. States' rights. There's all of this is involved. It's a very complicated issue. Our buddy Scott Stantis is going to weigh in. Producer Robbie, as you know, has tons of opinions on this. Ted and I have actually teamed up on this one, tag teaming on Robbie.
and I'm declaring formal victory against Robbie.
I don't think he's going down without a fight. But
No,
that's the main topic today, because this is obviously LA is the second largest city in the United States. California is the most populated state in this union. it carries a lot of weight what happens in California. So it is a very big issue, and obviously it's a big border state. So what happens there matters in this first year of Donald Trump with these mass ICE deportations. So that's going to be the main topic. So sit tight. Let's hop into it, Ted.
Let's do it. Well, here's the latest. Los Angeles is waking up on edge. Yesterday, hundreds of National Guard troops, the first of a posse of 2,000, arrived in LA. Crowds of Angelenos demonstrated against Trump's immigration ICE raids. They clashed with federal agents, leaving behind burned cars, broken barricades, graffiti on the walls of government buildings. The gatherings were only isolated in a few pockets of this very sprawling, vast city. And most of the city life went on normally. But in this area, near the Fashion District in downtown LA, clashes flared for hours before the sun went down and people started to go home to get ready for the work week. Officers fired munitions and tear gas. Protesters aimed fireworks and rocks at police cars. They also lit several Waymo driverless cabs on fire and briefly shut down the Hollywood freeway. Also,
but that's only because those suck.
I was going to say, I think everybody can agree that that's not a bad thing. They shut down the 101 Hollywood freeway, which cuts diagonally from northwest to southeast across Los Angeles. But today it's going to be 77 and sunny, and sort of life goes on in this sunny place. And
Pride parade happening in Hollywood.
So right now, the main things that are going on, we don't really know what the effect of the beginning of the work week is going to have in terms of, I assume, reducing the number of people who are available to demonstrate today. I don't know if temperatures will cool. We don't know if more troops are on the way. President Trump is threatening on social media to invoke the Insurrection Act, which is, kind of would be a radical escalation. He's threatening to send the actual U.S. military to Los Angeles to patrol the streets. That would be a radical escalation. There are thousands of National Guardsmen who've now been federalized by Trump. So this is a big clash between the state governors' rights. Normally, they're the only people who call out the National Guard, but sometimes they can be federalized. The last time that this happened, that the National Guard was federalized over the will of the local governor, was in 1965, when LBJ sent troops into southern states in order to enforce school desegregation. So it's been a long time. We haven't seen that. Most people who are listening and watching haven't seen anything like this in years. And this seems to me, Manila, like a fight that Trump is dying to have, spoiling for, looking to escalate. And, that's disturbing. I mean, whatever, your stance is on ICE or deportations or demonstrations or whatever, you kind of want your president to be interested in calming things down and cooling things off and coming out against violence and not, increasing the temperature. But Trump's clearly not interested in that. It's not his personality. It's not his politics. And so, that's where we are. So I guess we should just go ahead and bring in our guest. So Scott Stanton.
This what we're looking at here is like one of there weren't many hand-to-hand, we'll call it hand-to-hand combat moments that have been caught on tape. I mean, obviously, like you said, there were rocks being thrown, bottles, Molotov cocktails, all of that. Obviously, I think everybody on this panel that's about to appear can agree that that is bad. You shouldn't get violent, but at the same time, the posture and position of LA County sheriffs, of LAPD, and then the random surprise of California National Guard being deployed by Donald Trump, that is only ramping up the tensions there. Things were not like this until those people in riot gear started showing up. And of course, there are going to be people that are there. I have covered protests many, many, many times in my journalism career. And usually the first instance of of starting shit comes at the hands of the so-called officials. It's usually one cop or somebody that's trigger happy and shoots, like a pepper ball into the crowd, and then all hell breaks loose. Not that these, the crowds didn't come prepared to start shit. I'm not saying that's not also true. I mean, two things can be true at once. But usually, from what I've seen, somebody in uniform gets a little trigger happy and fires off a beanbag gun, a pellet, or not a pellet gun, a rubber bullet, striking somebody in the crowd, and the crowd goes wild and they start fighting back. And that's kind of what we're seeing here. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's how it all went down in the first place. But violence against cops is bad, but also violence against the civilian population is bad, especially if they weren't doing anything in the first place. So I think that's, important to point out as we have this Fox aerial footage showing on camera or on screen here. I think it's important to point out what we're seeing, but that was like one isolated incident of one guy in particular that was actually hitting and shoving the police line. Otherwise, generally, this is LAPD we're looking at. They are, their protocol is to just kind of hold the line and back up when necessary and not to engage. But there you go. See, they start firing off rubber bullets and other projectiles.
Which can kill people and have.
So
this is also before the only other thing we should bring in Scott, but the thing that I thought is really interesting here, this is a unique dynamic. Obviously, at the order of Mayor Karen Bass, a Democrat, the LAPD has been actually in the unusual, this is the nation's most heavily militarized police force, the force that invented the SWAT team idea. They are in this unique position of trying to actually save the protesters from the soldiers who are carrying live ammunition and semi-automatic weapons, and in some cases trying to drive the protesters away from the military because they're concerned that there could be a massacre. When you have a situation where the LAPD of all people are like the voices of calm and reason and trying to de-escalate things, things have gone pretty far. But let's go ahead and bring in Scott. Scott Stantis is the editorial cartoonist for the Chicago Tribune, contributor to Center Clip, the winner of the Sigma Delta Chi Journalism Award, and the co-host of the DMZ America podcast with Ted Rall. Oh, that's me.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Scott.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on.
I think as long as we're flying weird flags, if for those of you who are watching this on video, this is over my right shoulder is the flag of the resistance or the independence or the brown coats from Firefly, if you remember that great, probably the best sci-fi show ever. None of you remember it.
I would say not the flag. I would say Battlestar Galactica reboot is the best sci-fi show ever.
It's good, but Firefly's better. But
I've not seen either. And by the way, I like your glasses matching the flag.
Yes.
The flag of La Resistance. So Scott, so I want to be really clear here. As everybody knows, Manila is from Eastern Los Angeles.
These are my peeps.
I have some connections to LA as well, having been the cartoonist at the LA Times and also having worked for a local radio station there for years, the KFI. And Scott, you're from the Southland, as they call it.
I am. I'm from San Diego originally, but lived in San Pedro, the Bay Area, the South Bay area of Los Angeles, and started my career down those parts. So, I'm familiar. When you see these sites, I know them. I know the people. I know the area.
We all do.
And I'm looking at this. I'm sorry, we're watching this. This is a live feed, right?
No, this is not.
No, this is from yesterday.
Okay, but this dumbass approaching the police carrying the Mexican flag. Now, my take is, I'm a great believer in civil liberties. You know this. We're going to discuss this further. But, if you're going to have a protest about America and being in America, don't wave the flag of the place that's not America. It's just stupid. And it's at the very best, it's bad optics. Because people like myself here and not in Alabama and across the United States are looking at this going, why? I mean, if you love Mexico so very, very much, it's not a far, it's a 2-hour drive south. Go.
That's true.
You know?
That
It's-
is true.
No border check. You can just drive right in.
Yeah, they really don't care.
Scott,
who comes in.
as the resident leftist here, I'm not going to disagree with you. If I were in charge, for the protesters who are watching, these are, I understand the local politics here. The Mexican flag in the Southland has always been, it's not about like fuck America or I want to live in Mexico. Right. It's a sign of Chicano solidarity.
Right. It's a symbol of ethnic pride.
It goes back, this really sort of started emerging in the protest movement of the 60s, Cesar Chavez and all that stuff. And it has local historical antecedents. That doesn't erase, I mean, the thing is, the audience now is on television. It's not local. And, and we're all watching it. And Scott, we were talking about this before the show. I agree with you. It's the flag is not bad it's bad optics. But it's, what can you do? But
but on top of everything
given
else,
all that, it's kind of like you go to a protest with the demonstrators you have, not the demonstrators you wish you had, or the flags you wish you had. So like this
Donald
is where
Rumsfeld lives.
So I mean, look, I'm probably the only person here who's regularly attended left-wing protests, not just as a journalist, but as a attendee. And I will say, I've been to protests that went calmly and easygoing, and I've been to those that spun out of control, and the latter all have something in common, where every single time, without exception, and this is true about protests I knew about but didn't attend, it's always the police who escalate things. If they should, I've been to protests in New York where the cops were very chill. They show up in regular uniforms, no bulletproof vests, no Kevlar, no giant guns, just sidearms and billy clubs. And they're in their regular uniforms or maybe a t-shirt, and they're just hanging out and they're talking to the protesters, and they love it because it's like overtime pay, and it's the easiest overtime pay in the world. No one's there to cause trouble. Everything's fine. But sometimes the cops show up and they instill fear. I mean, you're naturally, if you show up to protest and you see this line of goon squad police officers with a lot of big artillery and armor and helmets, you're scared because you think they're going to attack you, and you have good reason to think that. And so like if you have a few troublemakers in your midst and they decide to go mix it up with the cops, you kind of tend to sympathize more with the troublemakers than with the cops, because those cops have already escalated the situation with their posture by being riot cops, by they've scared you. The cops are supposed to be there to protect everybody, including the demonstrators. And it's like, so I think, this situation got out of control because of the way things were handled. If you're here illegally, ICE has every right to deport you, but they don't have every right to have random sweeps of just going into places where there are minorities who live and bugging everyone and demanding their citizenship papers, and they have no probable cause to search you at all, but they just search you anyway because you have dark skin. That's not a way to do things in this country under the Fourth Amendment. It's unconstitutional. It's like if ICE goes in and let's say you legitimately find people to deport. You can deport them with like notice. Like if you're worried that you're going to run away, slap a monitoring bracelet on their ankle, and then tell them you have 30 days to like wrap up all your stuff and make sure everything's cool with your kids, and then you got to go, or whatever. But you just instead of just grabbing people away, in some cases U.S. citizens, by the way, accidentally arrested and dragged away in front of their children. Sorry, and then the cops don't listen to you. I mean, you're going to piss everybody off, including people who are here legally. And then, it's like, and then you're going to have the cops go storming in. Again, you're going to piss everybody off. And then you escalate with soldiers who have no place on the streets of an American city unless an American city is being invaded by a foreign army. It
literally is.
That's a lot to unpack. That's a lot to unpack. So I knew Robbie was going to have a lot to say about that. So I popped him on screen, but I just want to read what the law says before you weigh in about these ICE sweeps that we were fighting Robbie about pre-show.
No, I want to hear what Scott has to say first before I chime in. Because he's smarter than I am.
So let me just lay out what the law says. The law provides ICE with the authority to arrest individuals without a warrant, but it also protects certain rights during ICE encounters. Specifically, Section 287 of the Immigration and Nationality Act grants ICE officers the authority to make arrests, but they generally require a judge-signed warrant to enter a home or, private property. They can't do that without consent. And individuals have the right to remain silent and to request an attorney. They have the right to refuse consent for searches of their belongings and to decline to answer questions about immigration status unless an arrest warrant is presented. And then it also goes on to say that yes, ICE can deport green card holders under certain circumstances, even with a green card, which grants lawful permanent residence. Individuals can be subject to deportation for various reasons, including criminal convictions, immigration fraud, and or engaging in activities that threaten national security. So they can arrest and detain people. But the problem here, Scott, is the way, this is what sparked everything off outside of Home Depot in Paramount, which is a neighboring city to where I grew up in Whittier. What sparked it all off was ICE showed up to the local Home Depot there in Paramount and did a whole sweep and grabbed up every dude that was hanging out, every brown dude that was hanging out at Home Depot, some of which are green card holders, some of which could be American citizens, some of which might be illegal, sure, but it doesn't mean that they're, they had done anything other than the initial break of the law by coming here. I know Robbie's going to say that is by virtue, you're a criminal. But anyway, that's my whole point, is that's why Los Angeles went wild, is because the procedural way in which ICE went in there and just did a whole wide dragnet and just scooped up everybody. And that pissed off Angelenos. And that's why this whole thing unfurled this weekend, was the way ICE went and did this. They did not show up to say, hey, Jose Rodriguez, you fit that looks like you in the picture. I'm arresting you, Home Depot, guy, Jose Rodriguez.
And here's our warrant.
They didn't do that. Right. Here's our warrant. They didn't do that. They just went and picked up everybody that was out front of Home Depot.
In fact, they did arrest U.S. citizens too.
So there you go.
Yeah.
That's what pissed everybody off.
And they had no basis for that whatsoever. That's false arrest.
What you're finding in the polling right now is fascinating, is that initially people agree with the ICE sweeps, right? They think that if you're here illegally, you should, and by the way, emphasis on illegally, we need to focus on that, that ICE has a right to go in and do this. However, where the polls get really funny and very American, because we don't think deeply about, anything. And that's the as Manila just pointed out, the tools that ICE is using and the rights that it's ignoring. I live in a country, the reason I love America is it's a constitutional republic. We believe in the rule of law. We believe in due process. Due process is silly, it's ugly, it's slow, it's aggravating. Well, that's too goddamn bad, because these are the rights that I have, that you have, that Robbie has, that Manila has, that Ted has, that we all enjoy. And as soon as those become disintegrated for anybody, for any reason, then it becomes a threat to all of us. And that's where I, as a civil libertarian, find this deeply objectionable, deeply troubling. The militarization of the police officers, Ted pointed out earlier, is become a serious issue, because I want to see police when they show up to be like, oh, good, the good guys are here. Mm-hmm. No, now it's the stormtroopers are here. It's right. It's because they wear masks.
Officer friendly is no more.
Well, exactly. So on this particular issue, in this particular incident, sending in the National Guard, is that overkill? It certainly feels like it. And I think bringing in American troops to fight against American citizens is a serious problem. Lastly, and I want to ask Robbie this, in Montana, where you live, here in Alabama, where I live, if an unidentified masked men showed up at your doorstep and demanded entree. No legal,
No ID, no badge,
no warrant,
no face because they have a face mask.
Yeah. Would the reaction of your people there in Montana, my people here in Alabama, would be, you're not coming in. And that'd be my reaction.
That's New York reaction too. No way.
No, I agree with you. Now, here's the difference. And so already see how this is going to kind of go through. That's fine. I am equipped for this particular thing. I will take all three of you on and I will win by virtue of knowledge and just pure belligerence. First of all, I'm just letting y'all know right now. Y'all, just the job that you want. I'm here by flannel. By God, I'm ready for all.
I hear ICE pays $120,000 a year, Robbie.
I would do this job. Listen, I would do this job for free, happily. So here's the thing. First, if you come to my house.
By the way, look, this is what we were watching earlier. The guy with the stolen minivan. There he is. He's a big, fat dude, shirtless. And then he started harassing the protesters. So I don't know what side that guy's on. He's shirtless though, driving around a stolen van.
That's always the best look. Anyway, Robbie,
yes.
Especially if you set yourself on fire with your own Molotov cocktail. Just saying.
Oh, starting a trend.
But no, I mean, if someone comes to my house and they try to come in, I don't know who you are. You will go meet Jesus. That's 100% what's going to happen. However, if there's a bunch of people, let's just call this a target-rich environment, which obviously is, because let's be honest here. The whole reason we're even having this conversation is because our government has, since the Reagan administration, been promising to do something about the border, and they never do. First and foremost, that is a failure of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. It is by design. Mm-hmm. So that's number one. Mm-hmm. Number two, working class people like yours truly are utterly and completely pissed off about this because we're the ones that are paying the price. Black people in Alabama are getting screwed over because their wages are being pushed down. Hispanics are taking the jobs that they would traditionally do, the same as poor whites. So that's number two. Number three, Trump in this situation, and I'm not a Trumper. Y'all know this. I have no love for that orange buffoon. There is no PR way to do this. You are going to lose the PR war in this. So let's just say that you go and you serve Jose his papers. Jose, you've been in the country for 12 years illegally. You have never once bothered trying to get yourself legalized. So we're going to deport you. Well, Jose comes with his slew of anchor babies, his maybe American wife, maybe not. You have crocodile tears, have every TV camera right there. By the way, also, you have to go through, get the warrant and everything else because you're going to Jose's house that he is squatting in illegally as an illegal migrant. Sorry, let's just call this what it is. And then you have this whole media
fiasco. He's not squatting
fiasco.
in it if he's paying his rent, right?
Well, he's here illegally. He shouldn't be here to pay the rent in the first place. He's squatting. Sorry. And so, again, I told you I'm bringing my belligerency here.
Belligerence welcome.
Yes, and that's what we're going to do. So the reason why Trump is doing this, we saw this on TV. There were train loads of migrants being brought in by train to the Mexican border, dropped off, and able to just walk across under Biden. I have no problem whatsoever with dragnetting these bastards and sending them back to where they come from. That's number one. Number two, to Scott's point, I 100% agree. If you're a military-aged man waving the flag of a foreign nation while you are rioting and causing problems in my country, you're not a protester. You're an invader. If I had it my way, I would treat you as an invader is treated. Ched, your grandfather would be Team Robbie on this. You are here illegally. You are flying the flag of another nation. You're doing this. I will treat you accordingly if I was president. Thankfully, I am not. So we don't have to worry about that ever happening.
Between my grandfather, who was dealing with German soldiers who crossed the border into France illegally and invaded France and occupied France and brutalized France.
I'm sorry, what was that I word? What was that I word that you just used? Was it illegally?
Yeah.
Correct. There you go.
And civilians
who, let's just say,
sneak into the country across the border and are just looking to work
to the tunes
and keep their head down. They're not, I mean, you can, and I will make the argument that they drive down wages, but they're not doing anything. They're not here to hurt me.
Wait, hold on. So you're saying the drug cartels aren't a thing? That's not a problem. Like we don't have a problem with militarized drug cartels going
Sure,
through
of course
causing
we
trouble.
do.
So that's not a problem. I'm
It is
sorry.
a problem.
So
But
so
these
let's deal with
immigrants are.
this.
But look, I mean, I go back to what
Who
Manila
are you
said.
scooping
If-
up at Home Depot?
Illegal migrants, and you send the bastards
not-
back
You
They're
home.
don't know
they're
that they're
not
illegal
drug
migrants is the
cartel.
thing.
You scoop them up, you fingerprint them. If you're here in the system illegally, you cut him loose. Hey, enjoy. No, catch
Robbie,
and release works two ways.
Here, let me. Fourth Amendment. You have a
Yes.
right against unreasonable search and seizure. Very important amendment in the Constitution. A crucial thing in the American Revolution.
I
We
agree.
are all entitled. Like I'm entitled to walk down the street and not be subjected to a random search dragnet. Like, hey, let me see some ID. Like, no, I don't have to give you any. And I have every right to say, eat shit. I'm not giving you my ID. Now, if they say, Ted Rall, you're under arrest. We have a warrant. We suspect you of this and that. Fine. Then they're within their rights, and I hopefully will prevail in court. But that's not what's happening. As Manila is saying, this is a random dragnet, which court after court in state after state, up to the Supreme Court, has always found to be unconstitutional and illegal, like stop and frisk in New York, where you can't just say, look, there go Negroes. Let me stop them and search them because, it's like the old Russian joke about Hungarians. If you see a Hungarian, beat him, he will know why. You're not allowed to do that. Sure, I can go. I agree with you. The odds are, if I go hunting for illegals, the parking lot of the Home Depot is probably going to be a fertile hunting ground. But you're not allowed to go hunting that way.
Right.
It's just against the law.
Whole point.
That's the point.
Whole point.
So hold on. So let me just say this real quick. Then I'll shut up and I'll let Scott jump in because I'm really interested in hearing what he has to say. First, Manila, how just a minute ago, how you're talking about ethnic pride. As a Southern white male, it is illegal for me to have ethnic pride because that means I'm a racist. So if I can't have it, sorry, neither can your Chicanos. We're all together in this melting pot. So first off, just go get the thing off the table.
No, I think that's wrong too. And you know that. If you want to wave the stars and bars, and if somebody wants to walk around waving the fucking Nazi flag, that's your right. That
True.
is your right in America for freedom
As the
of
Supreme
speech.
Court has ruled.
Yep.
But
can wave whatever
be
flag you
ready
want.
for the repercussions. Be ready to
that's
be
exactly
called,
it.
redneck.
Every name in the
ready.
book.
Yeah, but that's fine. That's
So-
outside of the scope of the law. The law simply states that you
But
can, as a
ho-
matter of freedom of speech,
all
that
I'm
you can
saying-
wave whatever flag you want.
All
And
I'm
I'm
saying,
for that.
all
And
I'm
Scott
saying,
has all the flags.
all I'm saying is that this is a massive double standard that lefties are more than happy to overlook. Oh, these poor brown people here for a better life over here, flying their flags in foreign countries, are burning up cars, blocking roads. Look at them. We're being culturally enriched. Sorry, we're not. They're thugs. Deport them. Number two, the reason why the cops come in dressed like soldiers, and I agree with you, I'm against the militarization of the police. But ever since Black Lives Matter and you start having cops getting assassinated and stuff, because we saw the footage, cops getting shot in the head in cop cars and getting attacked. Cops are being trained more and more like soldiers. I agree with you. That's a major problem.
Robbie, BLM is only 5 years ago. This goes back decades.
Oh, I completely agree. But that's really when people started to really kind of see it. I mean, here in Montana, we have a tank here in Kalispell. Why do the cops have a tank?
Southampton, has a tank in case Alec Baldwin gets too spicy over a parking space.
Remember during the Iraq War, and they were giving these away, the used, lightly used military tanks, and the coroner of St. Clair County, Alabama, got a armored Humvee for. I don't know why. Yeah. No one can figure that one out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm Team Lefty on that. But, and this is the but, if you're in a public place by that law that Manila just now read, keep in mind, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not pretending to be one. I'm just some dumb inbred Southerner who moved up to Montana. So I'm punching way above my belt here. But it seemed like to me, if I remember the statute correctly, Manila, if I need to have a warrant if I'm going to your house, I'm not going to your house. I'm rounding your asses up in public. And if you come across in numbers by the millions, if you think that anyone is going to go and just deliver warrants one at a time,
Why not?
that is insane.
Well,
You round them up,
and
and
that's our systems,
no,
Robbie.
this,
I mean,
no, this is our system.
system.
This is listen. Like I said, I'm no Trumper, but I'll tell y'all right now: if a judge comes out and says Trump, this is wrong, I hope he ignores the judge. Ignore him.
I mean,
even better, arrest a judge
of
like Lincoln threatened to arrest the
it
Chief
also
Justice of the
endangers
Supreme
the
Court.
police and the soldiers too. I mean, honestly, 99.9% of the time, if the police just go to someone's house, knock on the door, the person will come out and leave peacefully. That's just true. I mean, you can ask cops about it. There are cops who serve 40 years on the force who never draw their weapon once. I mean, policing's not as dangerous as right-wing cop apologists would like us to believe. It's when, I mean, if you look at the images here that Manila has on the screen, I mean, these people are absolutely terrifying. They're one move away from
but this one is against breast cancer.
Weapons.
You have to respect that. He's got the pink ribbon.
That one, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like her mom.
Go on,
Right.
I'm sorry.
And it's like, look, these are goons. They're facing down civilians on the street of Los Angeles who are angry because of deportation policy
and
exercising their First Amendment rights. These people should not be the first people who respond. If, let's say the regular cops who are officer friendly can't handle it, then you escalate a little bit. And if they can't handle it, then you end up with these guys. But you don't start with these guys.
Right
and
there.
that's what happened.
Pause there. And that's exactly the problem that I want to present to Scott and Robbie too, is this becomes a question of states' rights. Now, you two are the conservatives. Maybe, you have some overlap and some differences in opinion here, but conservatives love the idea of states' rights, states' rights, states' rights. So
until they don't.
Until they don't. So where is the line here? So, for example, I'm reading from Time Magazine. It says, in a White House memorandum on Saturday, Trump said the anti-ICE protests, quote, constitute a form of rebellion against the U.S. and ordered Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to deploy 2,000 National Guard personnel in response immediately. So then here are the legal concerns. So to mobilize the National Guard, Trump invoked Title 10, Section 12406 of the U.S. Code, which allows for the federalization of the National Guard in cases of invasion or a rebellion, or if the president is unable to execute the country's laws with, quote, regular forces.
None of those conditions are satisfied here. So this is not an invasion. 12, it's not a rebellion.
It is an invasion.
A rebellion is an attempt to overthrow the government.
Hold on.
This
it is an invasion. This is an invasion.
It's not an invasion.
However,
it is an invasion.
However, Section 12406 also states that, quote, orders for these purposes shall be issued through the governors of the state. Newsom confirmed that he did not request the deployment of the National Guard, making it the first time since 1965 that the National Guard has been activated to a state without the governor's request. Moreover, an 1878 law, the Posse Comitatus Act, limits federal military personnel from being used for civilian law enforcement within the United States, which means in Los Angeles, the National Guard forces mobilized by Trump can protect federal agents, such as ICE officials, and federal properties, such as detention centers, but they cannot arrest protesters. They cannot intervene with protests. The Posse Comitatus Act prohibits troops from being used domestically unless the Insurrection Act is invoked. And Trump, this gets into dicey territory because Trump is threatening to do that, but then other legal ramifications come into play if he does. So for you guys, for the conservatives on the panel, where are the states' rights here? President Trump has basically neutered Gavin Newsom's ability to be the executive of his state.
7 years too late. Let me jump in just real quick and say, let's look at the history very quickly. And to Robbie's point, Joe Biden, when he came in, decided to obliterate all of the immigration, all of the border policies put forward by President Trump. President Trump's border policies, you can argue with them, you can disagree with them. And I did and I didn't, because I think you can't be a sovereign country unless you have sovereign borders. But to get rid of all of those policies, which did work. Now, what was the repercussions? What's the number, Robbie? Somewhere in the neighborhood of 11 million illegal immigrants over the 4 years. That's a hell of a. That's not. It's not an invading army, Robbie. I'm not going to disagree with you on that.
Just to be
There's
clear.
your Irish flag, by the way.
No,
There's
no,
your
no,
Irish flag.
There it is. Yeah, along with the Palestinian flag, which is a little.
It's not an invading army, but it is an invasion. It's the same thing.
It's a large number, but here's the thing. But here's the advantage of immigration. Immigration is a positive, is a net positive. I believe in small L, liberal immigration. No, it is. It is. Well, it is because it grows the economy, Robbie, because the people buy things like toilet paper, because they buy and they pay for housing, they pay property taxes, they pay sales taxes. This is how America has always grown its economy. I mean, ever since the German immigrants of the 1700s, which we hated them too, by the way. And then, of course, the Irish immigration,
Rall
we hated them, of course. The Chinese immigration, which, of course, we hated them.
They're the worst.
And now, and I mean, just name them, we hate them. And that's always been the pattern. I'm a French immigrant, and people still hate the French, and maybe rightfully so if you've ever eaten at a French restaurant. But where this comes and where the line and to finish the line of history, Newsom, until recently, until it's clear that he wants to run for president of the United States, I can't imagine what his slogan is. Would it be, he'll do to America what he did to California? I mean, he has been so inept, so inert on so many issues, particularly immigration and enforcing, reasonable immigration laws, that now we've hit this critical mass. And so the fact that he hasn't asked for the National Guard to come in, the fact that he has been inert, for no other word for it, on this issue, then the president is faced with, what do you do? And that's where states' rights get superseded by federal. I mean, it strikes me. I mean, come on, is it when you have Donald Trump talking against rebellion? Come on, man. I mean, I guess maybe the people for these protests can hope for a pardon somewhere down the line.
Well, he likes some rebellions. He just doesn't like other rebellions.
Yeah. So, hypocrisy, thy name is politics. And I was the first to say,
by the way, that January 6th was not an attempt to overthrow the government of the United States. It's not an
insurrection.
I've said it over and over, but that one looked a lot closer to one, in that, it was in the Capitol and it disrupted a constitutional process. That's not true here. I mean, let's just say, for the sake of argument, that these demonstrators took over the city of Los Angeles and declared their own sovereign republic. It still wouldn't overthrow the U.S. government. Okay, so it's not a rebellion.
Well, it could work for a while. I mean, don't forget, California is also now the 4th largest economy on the planet. That's that's a big stick. I mean, they really should probably secede. It says on their flag, California Republic. Let's just do it, man.
They're ready to go.
I love that flag. It's got the bear. So to Robbie's point, yeah, I mean, this is one of those instances where, I mean, I'm looking at this.
LAPD said that they had everything in hand.
I'm looking at this video. It doesn't.
Well, that's things got worse because they called in the National Guard. Admittedly, I grew up in the 70s in Ohio, so I don't view the National Guard as helper bears, if you know what I mean.
Kent State alumni probably agree.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's where the danger lies, is that when you militarize this, you escalate this, and Trump loves escalating stuff. Okay, that's what he does, and I think Ted is correct in that he's aching for. In fact, I have a cartoon brewing in my head about, and do you remember that great shot, the Pulitzer Prize winning photograph of the woman screaming over the prone body of a shot protester at Kent State? Except I was going to replace her with Donald Trump giving the thumbs up.
I want to be clear. That kid was not a protester. That was the victim in that photo was a high school kid who was on campus to visit Kent State to see if he wanted to go there. And he happened to be several hundred yards away, just walking, and a stray bullet caught him.
Oh my God.
So we're going to have that. I suspect that kind of escalation. And real quick, I know we like to talk about history on the show very briefly. The 65 reason that LBJ did it is because the governor of Little Rock was using the National Guard to support segregation. and keep the black kids out of the schools. And LBJ said, no, I'm going to federalize them. They're going to actually facilitate black students to attend Little Rock High School, North Little Rock High School, if I'm not mistaken. So just wanted to give a little nugget of history there. This is one of those instances where, temperament. And by the way, I don't know if you noticed this. I subversively mentioned Joe Biden. This is his fucking fault. This is his fault. I'm sorry.
Not just him, in all fairness, though. I mean, this goes back
to
Reagan.
But no, Robbie, I'm going to disagree with you in all humility that he's the one who obliterated all of the constraints on the border. Every single one of them.
I agree
opened them up wide and said, "Hey, kids, come on down to Crazy Joe's."
There's never been anything like it. Yeah.
Crazy Joe's. We're giving away debit cards left and right. You
now,
get
for
a
the sake
debit
of
card,
argument, though, but I want to also be clear, and I remember thinking this at the time. Unfortunately, we're not arresting Joe Biden. I would love to see that. He has it coming for a number of reasons.
Both, pal.
And the people around him, but that's a different show. But like the people who cross that border, they're not, Robbie. They're not illegal immigrants. They followed all of the rules. So even you might say the rules were wrong. I would agree with you that those rules should not have been the rules. But if you set the rules and you say anybody with a yellow shirt can come into the U.S. and live here for free, and then if you show up with a yellow shirt, okay, it's a dumb rule, but the point is that you followed it.
This is a dumb argument.
In that time frame,
you get in. So
rule.
these people came in, and I was like, okay, well, I remember thinking in a way the people who came in were stupid because they didn't know, U.S. government policy can change with one election, and it did, and then you find yourself on the, the policy changes, and your yellow shirt's no longer, a ticket, a free pass. But the point is, they went to the border. They got appointments on a government app. They showed up on time at Eagle Pass, Texas. They got interviewed. They were allowed in. They were given a free phone, and hallelujah, sent on their way. From their point of view, they didn't do anything wrong. You know what I mean?
Bullshit. No, I do not know what I mean. That is a idiotic and stupid argument. Okay, so first of all, this kind of goes to the whole thing about a rules-based international order versus a law-based international order. Presidents do not make laws. We have these things called immigration laws passed by Congress. They're acts of Congress. A presidential memorandum does not override a law. Biden chose not to enforce it. That does not mean that they are legal. They are here illegally. That's number one. Presidents do not make laws. That's the biggest gripe that both and Scott
that,
have.
Someone who crossed the Darien Gap and has no money whatsoever is supposed to be cognizant of these. I'm just going to say, for the sake of argument, let's just say you're completely right about the difference between an executive order and prosecutorial discretion and constitutional divisions. Do you think they're supposed to? Do you think Miguel, who shows up at the border with Rosita, is supposed to know those things?
Yes,
I don't think so. I think it's I think if I go to if I want to enter the territory of Azerbaijan, and I look online and they say, what's required to get into Azerbaijan? And they say, just show up with an excellent political button collection. And I do. Then that's it. I'm in, right?
No, but if you come in and you know that you can't turn left on red, okay, you need to have that knowledge. Ignorance of the law, Ted, is no excuse to not abide by it.
State of mind is important, though.
So does Donald Trump not understand the law that Gavin Newsom? This is one of the rare instances that I actually agree with Governor Newsom that he is within his right to say stand down. I don't want those troops here.
He does not. Okay, hold on. So let me
he
just
does up until you have to declare. You have to declare an actual rebellion or an insurrection
or an invasion.
So let me just kind of jump in here, just unpack a couple things real fast, and then I will shut up.
I doubt that.
So I won't. I'm going to keep right on going. But, so I straight up lied to everybody. And Gavin Newsom, I know you're watching the show. I'm about to do you a solid. I'm going to tell you how you can shut Trump down from a constitutional standpoint. First of all, can we just pretend like the Fourth Amendment in this country actually matters? Because if it did, we would not have red flag gun laws that go without due process, take away people's firearms, and for pre-crimes. All it takes is an accusation.
I
Trump
agree with
himself
that.
came out on record saying you take the guns first, you do due process second, to the applause of the Democrats. Your side, Ted, not mine. So let's first of all let's pretend like that this actually matters. Second, as far as the whole states' rights issue goes, we don't have a federal system. Federalism died on April 9th, 1865. It was finally it was buried when the 17th Amendment was ratified. Was it 1913?
Clause. I mean, federal law, when there's a conflict between federal and state law, federal law prevails.
But there's one major exception, and this is the problem with the National Guard. And Ted and you and Scott, as students of history, y'all gonna love what I'm about to drop. I'm about to do Gavin Newsom a solid. The National Guard can be federalized.
Yeah, that's true.
The one institution that is 100% under the authority of the governor and cannot be federalized is the state militia.
Mm-hmm.
Disband the National Guard, call it the militia. Trump can do nothing. He can do nothing per the Constitution. It is dead, buried, and finished.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to do this, I'm dead serious.
You know why he doesn't do it, though, Robbie, right?
Yeah, because he's a chicken shit coward. Yeah, I know exactly why he doesn't do it.
With the no more federal funding.
Okay, if California is the 5th largest economy in the world, they can tell DC to go stuff it.
Oh, I agree.
So do it. So Gavin, if you want to do this, if you want to call it the state militia to protect your precious illegal migrants, do it. Do it. I want you to do it. Show everyone that you are a cocksucking bastard and that you don't care about the American people. Do it.
That's not a great slogan for 28, I'm afraid.
Hey, it might be
I'd buy the
listen,
political button for
listen, as California very well could be. I mean, you're just going to a parade there on Broadway or something.
This is, Ted, I'm just saying, what I got to ask, I'm sorry, take half a step back. And this is my own ignorance. Is there a state militia versus a state?
Yes.
Yeah, they're two different things.
Yeah, they're two different things.
The National
Guard,
it
goes back to the early days of the Republic. Yeah.
Oh yeah, what's funny is during the if you ever read diaries, especially Madison's, but others on the Constitutional Convention, they talk about militias and the right of militias and the Second Amendment. George Washington's statements are behind closed doors. He never spoke publicly, but behind closed doors, he thought militias were worthless. He hated them. He supported them politically, but privately, he thought as a military man, as someone who believed in order and how a military works, he thought they were preposterous. I just wanted to throw that out. I think that's hilarious when you read.
But yeah, I think Robbie's right. But I think in the end, money prevails, and and also there might be issues about whether or not he could disband the National Guard.
Why couldn't he?
Why
couldn't he?
Well, I don't
know.
You're playing with people's pensions and their careers, and so that's that gets really, really messy real quick.
Oh, so you're saying we've never done that before? I'm like no, we never lied to the World War I veterans, and when they went to the National Mall to go protest, we didn't charge them and kill them right there on the National Mall using the U.S. cavalry. I mean, we would never do something like that.
Yeah.
Well, that was wasn't that McCarthy?
I never said that.
Army. That was McCarthy.
I just said why Gavin Newsom won't disband it. I'm telling you why.
Gavin Newsom.
It would get really, really messy.
Well, I think we're still
Gavin
very
Newsom's
early
probably
on.
too stupid to do it.
We're early on.
They could do that.
I think that's true, and also he's early. We're very early on in this crisis. That's the kind of thing that would happen.
Well,
they're
bringing a lawsuit right now. I mean, all the breaking news right now on my phone.
That lawsuit is completely doomed.
He's bringing a lawsuit to sue the Trump administration for deploying the Guard to LA. I mean, this is where it becomes.
That's one. I have contempt I always have contempt for politicians who do little empty gestures like this in the courts when they know they don't stand a chance of succeeding. It makes them look like they're doing something when they know they're not, and it's just I hate that. It's worthless gestures. That's the description of Newsom's career, isn't it? I mean, he lorded over San Francisco as mayor and watched the decline of that great American city, and then he became governor and saw the decline of that great American state. So, I mean, especially in issues like immigration, particularly illegal immigration. San Francisco and California have been collapsing under governors and mayors of both parties for decades.
So let's take it national.
What happens? Let's because I think just one big homeless camp from sea to
But look,
shining
this is
sea.
not to me, this is less of a political question than I like what Manila focused on earlier. This is about tactics, right? I mean, like,
Right. This is wrong.
Is it really necessary? First of all, you mentioned the Fourth Amendment. Robbie, I want to get you on the record about this.
Okay.
Random search and seizure is illegal. Okay. So like, let's say you're right by the border. ICE can and does conduct random searches and seizures. They can set it up right on the freeway, anywhere within 100 miles of the Canadian border. They can stop everyone and demand to see their ID and proof of citizenship. We don't live in a country where you're required to have a national ID. You don't have to carry any ID when you leave the house. This is unconstitutional. I have the right to go out to the store and not be harangued by ICE goons who are sweeping and random. So, I mean, to me,
Ted, you have the benefit. You have the benefit of being a tall white dude, right?
Which is stupid because
I could be
an illegal immigrant.
Little brown Asian Manila. If I happen to go outside at Home Depot that day because I'm going to buy new fucking drapes or whatever, I happen to be there during an ICE raid. Little Manila gets swept up. Little born and raised in the United States, born and raised in Whittier, California.
And yet I could easily be an illegal immigrant.
Correct.
I had a roommate. He was from England. He was an illegal immigrant. He was never going to get caught up.
I mean, that's what I was about to say. I mean, can we just stop pretending that illegal immigrant is a race? It's not a race. It's a status. They're illegal immigrants from all over the world.
But that's not how ICE is handling it.
ICE is handling it like it's a whole people.
Robbie,
where are they at?
Robbie, I can't tell you how many times I've driven on Interstate 10, which goes along the southern border, and gone through an ICE or BCE checkpoint where they either slow down with cones and the cops are all there and they're staring at you. They're eyeballing all the motorists as they go by like at 5 miles an hour. And if you're honky like me, no problem, Whitey, you're good. Everything's cool. But then the brown people, now the black people also is like, you're black. We'd beat you up later, but you go too. But the taupe people, those people get pulled over like immediately. And I'm like, that's racial profiling. They view it as a racial issue. ICE
it's a geographic profile. Issue. Where the hell are you? Because
it's not a geographic profile because you're stopping me. I'm right there. But they're not stopping me.
When I was driving back and forth between the CBS station in Yuma, Arizona, and I would drive home on weekends to LA to go see my mom. I would drive home pretty much every single weekend on Interstate 8 going before I hit San Diego. There is this ICE checkpoint that they set up at random spots
always there,
on a desolate part of Interstate 8 because there's no way out. Because you're stuck there because the other side is a cliff going down the fucking cliff in Arizona into a desert. So you're stuck there, and I see them wave through the white folks and whatever, and I'm thinking, surely they're not going to like harass me, a little Asian lady, but a little Asian lady in an Audi. Sure enough, they almost every time by myself driving home, driving to Los Angeles at 5 a.m. to go see my mom, and I'm pulled over. They open my car, open everything to make sure I'm not smuggling people. They're opening the trunk, but I see them waving whole SUV fulls of white people. That seems fine. But little Manila by myself in a fucking Audi, they're searching my trunk in case I'm smuggling other little Asian brown people or other brown people. So yes, they are selecting based on racial profiling.
Only on racial profiling.
Well, it sounds like then the coyotes, what they need to do is start hiring a bunch of whiteys like me, and they'll be able to quadruple their business with no problem at all. So again, so for you cartel members who are watching right now, y'all just heard it. how you can quadruple your profits while you're breaking laws,
Hire
smuggling
American.
people in, dropping them
USA.
on the deserts, and also get your guns and send them back down to Mexico. So you're here right here.
Hire-
We just helped you. We just helped you with
We
your
have lots of
business
underemployed Americans,
Yeah.
particularly
Hire
in the
gringos.
STEM
Yeah.
field. Just hire them.
Well, they did do something very interesting down here briefly, and I noticed that we're coming up on the end of the top of the hour. A DJ, a right-wing talk show host here in Alabama, said, let's see if it's true, because they started to enforce the immigration laws here in Alabama. This was about 10 years ago, and he said, let's see if it's true that Americans won't do these jobs, because there's a lot of agricultural jobs, particularly in the northeastern part of Alabama. Obviously in spring and summer. And he said, I don't believe it. I think Americans will do these jobs. He set up he widely dispersed the opportunity and the for these jobs. Robbie, nobody showed up.
What was he paying? I mean,
It was
because that's part of
agricultural. It was minimum wage.
Well-
It was minimum wage to pick all day. And I'm saying, that's
Well, there you go. If you pay people what not Ted, sorry, I didn't mean to insult you like that, Scott. If
no,
Hey.
none.
Hey, but one of the reasons why Republicans want immigration is because they want to keep wages low. That is a bona fide
agreed.
fact.
Totally agreed.
So Robbie's plan is a win-win. One, we can deport all these bastards who should not be here. It frees up millions of houses, apartments, and other things for these homeless Americans who don't have a place to live. Guess what? We can give them a place to live now, because we're sending people back where they don't need to be from.
We have plenty of abandoned
Second-
homes
We have
now.
plenty
We
of
don't
that
have
now.
to do
They're
that.
not.
But
They're
hold
just
on,
not doing
hold
it.
on.
You need to read my
Hold
book.
I did read your book,
Okay.
but I'm saying, but we can make more by deporting these people. Second, the biggest benefit by deporting these folks, number two, is that it will force companies to raise their wages. People will not work for free.
Or
They're not gonna do it.
for the ridiculous
Sure.
minimum wage in this country.
That's-
That's my
true.
point. And
Robbie, Robbie, you're right.
I know, and that's why I don't understand why these so-called leftists will come down on me and say, "Oh, Robbie's a white supremacist. Robbie's a Nazi," like that buffoon on your Facebook page. Just like, you're a Nazi. That's not an argument. What I want to do, if you want to actually increase the living wage for the American people, you have to restore the dignity of work. And the way that you restore the dignity of work is that you make work worth something.
Here,
And
here.
and
Couldn't agree
so
more.
but you're not going to do it, Ted, with open borders. If you
I'm
can
not
import,
for open borders. I'm for
dude,
closed borders.
you're literally right here saying these
But
people
let me
should
say
be allowed to
this,
stay
how
because
you-
the government's being mean.
But Robbie,
Don't
People-
conflate
listen,
that.
government
Don't
is
conflate.
force.
No.
No,
You're
no,
conflating
it's
two
related.
things. You're
No,
conflating.
I am not. It is
No.
related.
You're conflating our
It is
points.
related.
You're conflating our points. I'm not saying
Yeah.
they're not related. I'm saying you're conflating our points deliberately to make yours. What Ted and I we all here on this panel completely agree that illegal immigration is out of control. The border is too porous.
Correct.
We
But-
all agree on that. Hold on. Let me make my point. We all agree on that. That is the one foundational thing every single person on this panel agrees with. What Ted and I don't agree with you on is the procedural process that is being fucking trampled upon.
And I
Robbie,
Innocent
love
people
how
are
you
being
love what
scooped up.
I love
Robbie,
what
how you do
Manila.
things
This is
matters.
Manila. This is what you voted for. You voted for Trump. I didn't. You voted for this, and that just kind of
Because what's the alternative? Biden,
That-
Harris,
that's-
Harris, Biden again,
Thank you for
and
making
make this even worse.
Did
But
you
that's so.
Do you
Here's
re- okay. Do you realize
here's
that
the
you just
thing.
made my point? You just literally
here's the
made my
thing.
point.
No.
Yes, you did.
No.
You 100%
Because
did.
No. Trump sending the National Guard is a violation of having Gavin Newsom being the executive of California. So that
Gavin Newsom could stop him.
what?
Gavin Newsom could stop him. That's the thing. This is all theater. This is what's going on here. This is all political theater. First, like I said earlier, at
Well, that's,
at
on that
the
point,
start.
we're in full agreement, I think.
So
Oh, that part.
No,
Sure.
no,
Absolutely. It's always political theater.
no matter
But-
no matter how Trump does deportations, it's going to be demonized in the media.
Nah, that's not true.
The hell it's not.
It's
Kids
yeah,
in
cages.
that's not
Kids
true.
in
If he did it,
cages.
No, look.
how you do things matter. If you take a girl out on a date and you seduce her and you have sex with her, that's just good romance. If you rape her, you're going to prison. How
Okay.
you do things
Obama-
matters.
Hold on.
Here's
So
how
now-
you, let me bring
so
up
now you're
Barack
conflating-
Obama.
so now you're
Barack
conflating-
Obama was actually the deporter in chief. He was so there's that.
Trump
right?
should take that
Barack
title.
Obama was the deporter in chief, but the way he did things, I'm not saying he's not a fucking rat bastard, but the way he did it was so goddamn smooth that everybody was like, oh, we love him. He is like descended from heaven. He is the liberal of liberals. And
Where
he's
is he,
been
by the
quoted to say
way?
he's not a liberal, right? The way he deported and kept children in cages, separated families, deported people in the millions, but you know what?
This is
He
about
did it
terror.
in a way
to
he
Manila's
presented
point,
it.
and
People
why
loved
is
it.
Trump doing this?
I'll
It's
tell
not
you why.
about illegal immigrants. It's about terrorizing everybody, including legal people, including
don't-
people who are born here. He's trying to terrorize the American public. That's what this is about.
I don't think so. I think terror is a big piece of it. I think what is she's trying to force people to self-deport, and kind of like how we were talking about over the weekend about this stupid idea about paying people $50,000 to leave works so
was
well
my
for the
idea.
Romans, right? I mean that's awesome because what could possibly go wrong with that? But no, but what this is that he is trying to make them self-deport by terrorizing them. Let's
Yeah.
be honest, what it is,
Right.
And no, if you have millions of people,
And people don't react well to seeing their fellow residents, I'll say, and their friends and their coworkers terrorized.
well, they can go back to Mexico with them. Bye bye.
They got the flags already.
They do.
Let
So,
me
Scott,
ask
what
this.
you got to say?
I was just saying we're over time.
We'll give Scott
here.
the last word.
No, but I did want to ask you guys. If it's not my show, and I'm sorry, but just do a round. I'm
That's all
dying
right.
to know what you guys think. What are the next steps? We're where we are today. We see the videos. We've been watching them for the last hour. We've been talking about it. What happens next? But I'm going to jump in first because, well, I'm talking. My guess is the National Guard gets nationalized. The courts support Trump's decision to do that.
Agreed.
And it's going to become further and further a mess. And there will be, I suspect, fatalities because National
Agreed.
Guards guys, not
That's what
greatly.
they do.
Well, it's some, and I suspect this will blow up and become a level of protest and protesting that we haven't seen since the 60s and early 70s. And I lived in Madison, Wisconsin in the early 70s, like a
Protests
mile.
are coming to New York City, I think.
A mile and a
today.
half from the UW campus where they had protests every day, practically anti-war, and violent protests, and had, the local police and the riot gear, and you could smell the pepper gas, the tear gas. That's my guess going forward. Do you guys disagree that that's not what's going to happen next?
I agree with that assessment. And here's the thing, as the only LA native that literally grew up with all of this shit, and I lived in downtown LA at 5th and Hill. You guys can look.
Oh my gosh.
look
No,
this
I
up.
know exactly where that is.
At 5th and Hill, I lived there in I don't know, 2010, 2011, something like that, for a couple of years. And there were protests all the fucking time. Every weekend there was a protest. It was noisy and horrible. And I'd be sitting out my window, these giant Art Deco windows, leaning over the ledge, smoking a cigarette and going, I just wanted to sleep in, but you fuckers need to protest every weekend at 8:00 in the morning. God damn it. And so, flicking my cigarette out at them. So I'm not a big fan of protests to begin with because they disturb regular people, working people trying to get home to their families. Number one, my thing with my people back home, this is my complaint, is you all go out and complain and disrupt everybody else's lives when it actually mattered, when you should have shown your protest was at the fucking polls. Los Angeles is notoriously horrible at showing up for local elections, horrible for showing up for the primaries, but then they show up in mass because they're angry at the general. They showed up like we're talking in the 70-ish% for the general to vote against Trump this last time, and something very high like 68% the last time. Very, very, very high voter turnout in the general. But the problem, Angelinos, hello, ding dongs, wake up. You show up to the general, but now you only have this choice of A and B, shit salad or shit soup. Pick one. But when you could have made a difference was at the local level, at all the little small elections to begin with, and then you would elevate better fucking candidates to get there to the general. But no, Angelinos notoriously show up in like the 20 or 30% percentile to show up for these primaries, then they wonder why at the state and national level, why we have shit choices. This is why they don't show up when they need to.
I mean, nobody
they don't show up when they need to, and then they show up
local elections.
and then wake up poor journalists like me at 8:00 in the morning on a Saturday, and then I have to have my cigarette earlier and flick it out on them onto Broadway.
Let me answer Scott's question, and then I'll let Robbie have the last word. For me, I think things are going to play out the way that you guys think. There may be a moderating influence just simply by the beginning of the work week, as I alluded to at the beginning of the show. It's Monday. People have to go to work. People, basically tend to demonstrate when they're not called to be somewhere else. So I suspect that the real action is going to move away from Los Angeles to other cities like New York, where there's major protests scheduled for this week. And it's going to end up, I think that the Trumpies the White House is going to find itself playing whack-a-mole, much in the same way that it did with the race riots in the 60s. Robbie?
Last word, Robbie.
Okay.
Last word.
So I think it's going to depend on how this thing goes. The local elections actually matter more than federal elections, and people don't really understand that. The most powerful law enforcement official in a county is the sheriff. Like the sheriff of LA County could arrest every ICE agent that's in the county. He has that power. And so Gavin Newsom, he has tools that he's able to use. New York City has tools that they're able to use. Trump is not a king, no matter how much it is that he wants, no matter how much he wants to be one, he's not. There are things we're able to do here locally using local power. It's just going to come down to what is more important to these people. Are they going to select that they don't know these things that some inbred redneck in Montana knows, or are they actually going to stand with the American people, or are they going to stand with illegal immigrants who should not be here? That is the choice that they have to make. And it's a choice that the people should force them to make. These elected officials have to put their cards on the table. Do you stand with immigration law? Do you stand with the United States, or do you stand with illegal migrants?
And that's all, folks.
Well, so that's that. I mean,
okay, we figured it out.
I hope LA Monday morning traffic, because that's what's happening right now. It's 8:00 in the morning back home.
My God.
I hope these folks have got their freeways back open.
Oh, God.
I do not.
The 101 was closed.
Yeah, this is 101 at downtown. This is the bridge that leads you from downtown into Chinatown, because it's separated by the 101 freeway. This is what we're looking at. Chinatown, I don't know if they batten up the hatches. Remember, we had in 1992, we had the rooftop Koreans. I wonder if we'd have the Chinatown rooftoppers for this. I don't know.
It'll be a bunch of hipsters now.
I know.
They'll be smoking their cigarettes at 8
lattes at the looters.
Smoking their cigarettes and being pissed off at getting woken up at 8 in the morning.
Would they know which end of the gun to hold?
So much.
Well, obviously, we are not going to hash out this entire immigration debate in just over an hour. But one thing is clear is states have rights. Federal government has certain rights that they can abide by. But right now, the federal government is kind of making the rules up as they go. I think we can all agree with that. I think so, right, boys?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least I get to a state where a governor has some balls.
Well, you can come down here. Tommy Tuberville's about to become our governor. He doesn't even live here.
How does that even work?
That's weird.
It does. It's going to go to court, and it's going to get. It's a weird issue. He has not lived in. He votes in Florida, and he's saying that my wife owns property in Alabama. Well, that's not residency. To run for governor of Alabama, you have to be a resident for 8 years, 8.5 years.
Oh.
And Tommy's the third senator from the great state of Florida. I mean, he hates Alabama. He left as soon as he was shit canned from his job at Auburn University. Watch this story, folks. It's going to be fascinating.
Well, our guy in California is up in 27, and then what do you know? 2028, folks.
Quick question.
President Newsom.
I know
Oh,
we're over.
God.
Just quick question.
Please.
Where's Kamala fallen down on this? Has she said anything? I haven't seen
She's gonna
anything.
be governor. No, she hasn't. Well, she has.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any official quotes from her, but for sure she's going to pick up the mantle that Newsom leaves behind to run for president. I'm speculating, but she's going to become the governor, and he's going to become president.
He's not going to become president. It's just seriously. There's no. I can guarantee you, Ted. You're an Ohioan. There is no way in God's green earth, Newsom. There's going to be a President Newsom.
I don't know.
All
I
right.
don't know. I mean, it's gonna be heir apparent JD Vance versus Gavin Newsom.
I think Vance is cooked.
Do you really? Oh, I don't know. I'm impressed by this guy. I really am.
No, I think Vance is very smart for sure.
No, he's
But
smart, but I think he's cooked.
Whatever Newsom does is going to be measured right now because he's looking at 2028. And just to be clear, Governor Newsom does work with ICE. For example, there was a Lao prisoner. There was a Lao, a guy that served time like since he was a teenager, and he's around my age now. When he was one of those inmate firefighters. Gavin Newsom, when his time was due to be released, Gavin Newsom didn't release him back into the wild to his family in Fresno. Gavin Newsom gave him to fucking ICE. He was a child refugee. Gavin Newsom gave him up to ICE, and there was a whole thing, but now he's free. So, Gavin Newsom is not exactly super pro-immigrant either.
No, but they're going to, all you have to do if I'm running against him is use the phrase, he's going to do to the United States what he did to California. Eesh. And you win.
I don't want that to happen to the rest of the United States. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us. Thank you for staying this whole long time. Scott Stantis, of course.
Love you guys.
You guys know who he is. Go check out his work at the Chicago Tribune. And then he and Ted have their weekly podcast, the DMZ America podcast. You guys can check that out on Saturdays. Is that right?
Whatever.
Just chill.
Just kind of random.
Just whatever.
It's weekly.
At some point once a week.
Yes. There.
So that's that. Thank you guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow. Hasta mañana.
Love you guys. Bye.